everyone, welcome back. This is Teresa's Crafty Cabana, and today I'm showing you how I put together some jelly prints using a lot of layers, and then how I transformed them in the end to make them look a little more cohesive, especially if sometimes your layers don't really feel like they're flowing together very nicely. To start with, I'm using a flower press kit that I got from Amazon. I'll link the one I got below. I had pressed some leaves that I got from my garden, whatever was blooming at the time, and these were in this flower press for about 2 weeks, and they came out really nice and flat. They are nice and dry as well. They're like paper thin and very flat, which I really love, especially this Creeping Jenny here. This one is one of my favorites to jelly print with, and it's usually kind of curly if you don't press it, and it makes it a little more difficult to work with, especially as they dry. I have some bougainvillea leaves and a few other ones. Don't remember the names of the plants. Some of them are even from weeds, but had cool looking leaves. So this has 6 layers in it. I only ended up using 2 for these leaves that I pressed. I'm loving my little tool here that helps me open my paint bottles, and it definitely saves my fingers. So here I have 2 greens that I wanted to blend into a nice ombre, so that I can get a pretty green color for this first layer of the leaves. Once I've got the leaves down where I want them, I'm just using a piece of magazine paper and just pressing that just so that I can have some pressure over those leaves and kind of get them to be like a silhouette on the jelly plate. And then I can remove any of those extra leaves. Then I have this Golden Touch. This is just a gold acrylic paint. I am using acrylic paints for my first 2 prints. I wanted to see, number one, this was kind of an experiment for me with all the layers that I'm doing. Just wanted to see how it performed with my acrylic paints before I went in with my more expensive ones. And then at the end, I also wanted to see how much better I liked the higher end paints versus the lower end paints. And I actually, I'll show you at the end how they turned out, but I think one of the ones made with the craft paint ended up being my favorites. So I don't always rule out craft paint as being not an option, even though I have some nicer paints. Sometimes those craft paints, they tend to make the prints that are still some of my favorites. I'm using this embossed piece of cardstock, and then I have this mesh. It's just a wire or metal mesh, and I love getting impressions with this. Just getting a few little spots here and there. And then I have this is a stick that I found when I was on vacation in the spring out in the woods. I found a few different sticks that had some interesting textures to them, and they've been really fun to jelly print with. I brought these home with me. For this next layer, after I let the gold dry, I wanted to bring in a warmer set of colors. So I've got my kind of orangey clay tones here. My strategy behind these prints is have a layer with color, whether it's warm or cooler, and it can be an ombre. Have a layer that's a metallic or sparkly layer, then have a layer that's opposite of the color that you originally used or worked with, and then potentially 1 to 2 more layers. It could either be just going back and forth with the tones or going down kind of like I go down the rainbow of colors that kind of go well together. I usually do have a bit of a strategy when I'm picking colors. I like to either go complementary colors, so they're across from each other on the color wheel, or I like to go with colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. And then I'm also trying to figure out what kind of tone I want for the print. So for example, if I have pastels, I probably won't mix pastels and fluorescents together unless I was specifically going for like an 80s theme. I don't know, but generally I try to keep with a theme of what those colors are bringing together. So all of these colors that I picked out, they kind of had the same color vibe to me. The greens, the oranges, the yellows, and then this nice pretty purple. It's almost like it's called Poetic Plum, and it is a really pretty plum color. And again, this is a color that I have in my craft paint stash, but I don't have a color that matches this purple in my higher end paints. I know you can probably mix something up that's similar, but I just love sometimes with the craft paints, there's such a variety of colors and they're pretty inexpensive. So that's why I like using these craft paints, especially when I just want to have some color on the page. This one is going to be more like the two-toned ombres. So the other one, my ombres were same color, just different tones. These are going to create 3 colors basically. So my blue and yellow mixed to create a green in the middle. And then I do the same thing with my leaves, create this first layer the same way, just mixing up where I'm putting my leaves. How I'll mix it up this time, instead of the magazine page, I'm going to use some of my textures over those leaves to press them in. So I have the mesh, and then I'm using this piece of bubble wrap to just press over that mesh. Then I just carefully remove my leaves. Now, I was noticing that my leaves did not look like, I don't know, they didn't have all the veining and everything. I didn't know if that was because they were so small and so thin. I really don't know why. I've had better impressions of leaves. Also, it could have been my paint was a little bit too thick. So something to keep in mind. I do tend to have better impressions with leaves than this, but this just seemed to smudge my paint. This was my holographic silver that I'm using for the metallic layer on this print. I wanted to have something that would create some shine. So I've got those kind of ombre colors. I've got the holographic shine on this layer. And then I wanted to completely remove some spots of the paint. And that's why I'm using these circles. So this way I can try to remove those areas, and then I'll have more of the jelly plate showing in those spots to create my next layer. It's not perfect, and that's okay. I just wanted a little bit more of the jelly plate revealed. So now I've got my clay and my Poetic Plum. I thought these colors were really pretty and I wanted to see them together. For this next texture, this is the sunflower that I got from Dollar Tree. I think it's a placemat. Might be a spring item, I believe. Could be in the fall. I can't remember if it's a fall or spring item, but it is definitely from a couple years ago. And I am using the front side of it. So I've been using the back side because I thought maybe I would use this placemat on my table. I didn't want to ruin the front side, but one of my viewers told me that I should try the front side of it and that it makes a much neater or more impressive looking texture, and she was right. It was really cool. I thought that the way that I was using it, that the texture was just okay, but using the front of it, I don't know if the holes are smaller or more defined, but it was definitely a much better impression. I do let my prints dry for about 15 to 20 minutes before I pull them off of the plate. And as I'm going each layer, I use a little tabletop fan, and I just turn that fan on and leave the layer to dry until I touch it and there's no wet paint. Now I absolutely love how this print turned out. The colors on this one, the layers, everything about this one just turned out so awesome. I was a little bummed that this little part here did not pull up, but I wanted to show you the holographic glitter on this one. It really catches the light in person. As I tilt it, those areas where the glitter was, it's so pretty in person. Anyway, I thought I'd try to salvage that little spot there with some collage medium. I've had success with this in the past, so I thought I would try it with this little spot. There was also a little green spot on the side that I thought I would maybe try to pull that up as well. I didn't use a lot because I didn't want it to be thick and I don't know, I didn't want it to make the print move around. I just wanted to use it like glue just to get that paint to adhere to the paper. And I let this dry for probably about 15 minutes. I waited until the top of it was completely dry. It pulled up the little green spots that I had missed on the first pull, but it still was not completely getting these two little spots here. I tried using my finger to scrape it down, but it was better than it was before, but it still wasn't perfect, but that's okay, because what I'm going to do to transform this, you won't even be able to really tell in the end. But I do love how this print turned out. I love the colors on this one. For my third and final print, I'm going to start with a stencil. This is from PM Artist Studio, designed by Becky Bocorn, called Love Lattice Hearts. And I'm using some alcohol inks for this one to start with. I've got a honeycomb, like a yellow color, and then an orange color, Valencia. I am going to use a 2-inch brayer to try to blend these colors. Once I feel like I got a good amount of the background, I wanted to add in a little texture before I remove my stencil. This is just from I think it's just a packaging, something from Dollar Tree, I think. And then I removed my stencil, let the alcohol ink dry, and then I brought in a white. This is just a titanium white from Golden Fluid Acrylics. I really like adding white over my transparent layers, the alcohol ink colors, because they are transparent, and I know that whatever color I put behind it, the true color of the alcohol ink won't show unless I use a white layer. So here's where I'm revealing from that white layer my leaf layer. So the same thing, removed all my little leaf textures, and now I have the golden iridescent bright gold color. This will be my shiny layer. This next texture is a bowl from Dollar Tree. It was a set of 4, and I just like to press that in to get an interesting design. Then I have a piece of the toilet paper roll that I'm using to make some more circles. And I'm also using my mesh over this gold paint with my magazine. I created this last year with some homemade texture paste. I just wanted to reveal a little bit more of the jelly plate, so I just pressed that down, but I don't really get this impression on the jelly plate. That's okay, because that wasn't what I really wanted. I wanted to remove a little bit more of that paint. When that layer dried, I am using some teal and just a magenta mixed with white. I wanted to create a purple with these two colors. I tried to get a little bit of that texture from the flower before I added my final layer, which is going to be a green and a yellow mixed together. For my first 2 prints done with the craft paint, I used 32-pound Hammer Mill copy paper. But for this print, because it's the nicer paints, I am using the 110-pound Nina White cardstock. I did let this print dry for about 20 minutes with the fan on it. And these colors turned out really nice. They are almost a little pastel looking. You can see the bit of purple that I created with the blue and the magenta, the teal and magenta. And you can see the yellow in the front from the alcohol ink and that stencil. And it was looking very interesting. I liked how it turned out. But this gave me the idea that I wanted something that I could do to these jelly prints to make them feel cohesive with all of those layers. These are the 3 prints as they were before I altered them. So I just wanted to show you them as they are before. I brought out an embossing folder, and I wanted one that was big enough to fit this 5x7 gel print, and this one is definitely large enough. And then I have my Stāzon black, the jet black ink, and I just rub that over the smooth end of my texture. When it's a flower or a design like this, it doesn't matter which side of the plate that you use, but for me it was just easier to pick the side that was mostly flat. And I ran it through my embossing machine, and I got this really beautiful kind of like a outline of flowers and little buds with the black, and I just think it kind of just makes this print feel more like a cohesive print. I even like how some of the little flowers look like they just had outlines of the black and not just fully filled in. I did clean my embossing folder before I put it away because Stāzon ink does dry on a slick surface, and to get it off, the best way is, I was using a baby wipe and it worked a little bit, but you want to use some alcohol. I used 91% alcohol, and that removed the majority of the ink on the plate. I have these 2 other larger sized embossing folders that I wanted to use for the other 2 prints. In this one, there's a textured side and a smooth side. This is a plaid, so I used my ink over the smooth side. And we're going to alter this one here with the circles and the purple and the green. Now this one, the paper stuck to this embossing folder pretty good. It made these little dots, and it was kind of tricky getting it out. So for this one, it was covered by a lot of that black ink, and I wanted to reveal more of the gel print underneath. So I took a microfiber cloth and some 91% alcohol and just rubbed that over the black ink areas, hoping to reveal a little of the color underneath that I liked. It did work to remove some of that black ink over the top. It didn't remove it completely, but it was enough that I was happy that I could see some of the color come through this. It did take a little while, so I didn't record the whole thing, just where I started and then where I finished. And one thing to note is the paper got really sticky as I was doing this process, just because the alcohol was kind of making it like a sticky surface, but then it did dry and it was not sticky. For the next one, I'm using this. It's called Typeset, and it's a really fun, kind of like different letters spun different directions. And I'm using that over this last print here. I'm going to use some timber brown this time. This is letters, so I could only do one side correctly. So I used that scrap piece of paper to make sure that I was going to be revealing the correct side, and I just wanted to see what it looked like first to make sure it wasn't going to completely cover up my gel print, because I really liked this gel print. This was my favorite print that I had made during this session, and I really didn't want to ruin it. Even though it had that one little spot at the top that the paint didn't come up, but then when I put this brown and then the type font embossing over the top of it, I just thought this one turned out so cool. It kind of looks like grungy, rusty with the blue and the orange, the pops of the contrasting colors. I just thought this one was absolutely so much fun. So these are the 3 altered prints. Again, we have the flower with the black, and that ties that one together. We've got the brown with the typeset font, and then the last one is our plaid with the kind of purple circles and a little bit of the green showing through. Definitely made this one grungy, but I'm okay with it. It made the paper feel kind of like a cloth from this embossing folder. So I thought that these turned out so neat and so fun. So I think for this middle one, my favorite one, I might use these little mushrooms I had created in a prior video and put them on the front of a card and have it be for fall, because to me these colors are so fun and fall-like. That's probably how I'm going to use that middle print. So let me know what you thought about this technique and layering up your jelly prints, and then maybe at the end having them all come together with an embossing folder that you have that you love, and put some ink over it to give it a little bit of distressed or grungy look to it. Have you tried that technique before? And if you have, do you have any tips to share with me? As this is my first time trying this way, I would love to hear from you, and let me know which print you thought was the most fun with this technique. Definitely this middle one for me. I just love everything about it. But I did love the golden fluid one as well. I thought that one turned out nice. So I will see you in the next video, and in the meantime, happy crafting, y'all.